And welcome back. We continue our conversation about the 2020 elections with Professor Michael Kraft, Professor Emeritus from UW Green Bay, with this impeachment Senate hearing coming up someday. We don't know when. But our two senators, Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson, they will, of course, be taking part. What roles do you see them playing in this process? And I take it Johnson more so than Baldwin.
Yes. The roles will reflect their party positions. Tammy Baldwin is elected as a Democrat, Ron Johnson as a Republican. Johnson presumably will be highly defensive of the president. Tammy Baldwin less so, though I don't know that Tammy Baldwin has been very vocal so far on this. Right. The biggest concern is what the Senate will actually do. That is, will they hold a trial with evidence and witnesses?
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, of course, this would be speculation. What I think, as many viewers know, and this has not changed in the last several weeks during this holiday period, is the House voted to impeach 2 articles of impeachment. Right. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, says, I'll send them over to the Senate when we're convinced you're going to hold a fair trial. The Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, says it's not for you to determine. Send them over and we'll do what we want to do. And right now we have a standoff. She says, I want to be sure you're actually going to call witnesses and present evidence because there's more information after the House vote and because we want to make sure it's fair. And all along, Republicans had complained the House proceedings were not fair to the president. So, maybe there'll be some give and take. Maybe there'll be a vote. And it could be some Republicans. It takes 4 Republican votes, if you assume we have all Democrats, to adopt a motion on the rules of procedure. And I think there probably are 4 Republicans who want to see a fair trial. The president himself at times said, I want a trial. I want to defend myself, which may or may not carry some weight here. So right now we don't know. My guess is they will work out some compromise. There will be something, maybe not very extensive, but some kind of presentation of evidence, and I think there probably are Republican votes in the Senate to challenge McConnell if all Democrats stay together. Now, I would think that the Wisconsin senators will vote with their parties. I don't think there are not likely to be too many senators who cross over, because in the House, as we saw, it was very much a partisan vote.
So when it's all said and done, is this a foregone conclusion?
Based on U.S. history and based on the politics of an open vote in the Senate, where people are held accountable for their vote, is rather hard to see that the Senate would vote to remove the president from office. Right. So the historical precedent is the House brings charges, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, violation of the oath of office, and so on. And the Senate says we've considered the evidence and decided no. No president has ever been impeached and also removed from office by the Senate, and that is likely to hold this time. However, being impeached is a unique situation, and I'm sure the president is not happy being only the 3rd president in U.S. history to be impeached. Whether there's a conviction or not,
it's on your record.
It's on the record and almost certainly would be raised during the campaign by Democrats.
Right.
Who will try to say there was something there and this should reflect on people's judgment when they vote.
Impeachment aside, what in this presidential campaign is Wisconsin most focused on? What do we care about the most?
Nationwide, I don't think Wisconsin is much different here. There's not a lot of variation state by state, but health care has emerged as a big issue. The economy's been doing very well. The stock market's been doing well. That doesn't affect everyone. But generally, economic conditions are a major factor. In fact, I've said publicly before when I give talks on the presidential elections that if the economy is very strong and people are happy with how they're doing economically, that almost always means a favorable vote for the incumbent president. We're starting off the year with a pretty strong economy and record stock market prices. On the other hand, we now have some concerns about an expanding war in the Middle East. That does not bode well for any incumbent. Also may have economic consequences. But health care, access to health insurance and affordable health care is likely to be a big issue. I think the farm economy in Wisconsin will be an issue, manufacturing. Wisconsin has been hurt economically through trade wars affecting both small manufacturers,
Right.
farm machinery, farmers themselves, despite the funds made available to farmers to help compensate for the loss. Many smaller farmers in particular have not received very much, and that may play up particularly in rural areas of the state. Otherwise, I think the differences we've always seen between the two major parties will be back again. And health care, going back to Obamacare's adoption in 2010, the state of the economy, the role of the government, regulation, environmental concerns, climate change has emerged somewhat surprisingly this year. The fires in Australia and in California, and this is a big issue for Democrats. Republicans talk about it somewhat less, but maybe need to speak to it this year.
We continue with Professor Michael Kraft after this, so please stay with us.